Hello, Steve Kaufman here. Today I'm going to talk about something that relates to language and has to do with freedom of speech, and I'm calling it dialoguing because I had the experience about a year ago of attending this conference or a discussion, a day here in Vancouver put on by one of the local universities, and it was about dialoguing, and there were maybe 100 people in the room, half of whom were students. And before we began our deliberations, we were lectured by one of the students on how we should conduct our discussions, that it was important to use a technique of dialoguing. And these students who were putting on this seminar were in a program at Simon Fraser University called Dialoguing, where you learn how to talk to people in such a way as not to have an argument. And it became very clear during the day that dialoguing meant we have decided what is the right position to have. You shall not challenge this position. In other words, dialoguing means how do we get someone to move towards our position? And I checked on the internet, I see religious groups talking about dialoguing, how they can dialogue when they're dealing with an atheist. And I firmly believe that if freedom of expression means anything, it means the right to disagree. It means the right to state your position quite firmly, quite strongly. We've had the situation here in Canada again. I think Canada is the world leader at political correctness, although I see that the United Kingdom is trying to compete with us for that honor. And at Queen's University here, the university decided they would institute sort of, I can't remember what they called them, but people who would go around and listen into conversations and to make sure that people were dialoguing properly and that there were no disagreements, strong disagreements, or that people weren't stating strong positions having to do with issues such as race and gender. In other words, thought police. We have seen this proliferation in Canada of these human rights tribunals, whereby if you are a member of a group that they consider to be a protected minority group, a group that is deserving of their sympathy and support, such as gays, such as Muslims, then you can literally take anybody to a human rights tribunal, and your costs are essentially borne by the state. And the unlucky person you have accused, has to spend, in many cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars to protect themselves against whatever frivolous accusation you choose to bring. Now, it's true that the tribunal has the right to reject your any case that you bring before the tribunal, but so far they tend to reject only those cases that challenge those protected groups. So that we have the case, for example, of a magazine that printed the 12 cartoons that depicted Mohammed, and these are cartoons that had been printed all over the world. This was a news story. A magazine in Canada printed this in the context of describing this story, and they were brought before the Human Rights Tribunal. And after 3 years, and lots of useless bureaucrats sitting around wasting everybody's time and money, I think the case was, I'm not sure what happened to it, but at any rate the person had to spend a lot of money to defend himself. On the other hand, when someone in Montreal pointed out that there was an imam spewing hatred against Jews, Western women, basically a lot of very nasty stuff, gays of course, that now this person could not be brought before the Human Rights Tribunal because he belonged to that group of people that the thought police and their associates want to protect. So I want to state categorically, and now we have the case here in the UK where a Dutch member of Parliament was turned away from the UK because he represented views that the UK thought would cause a disruption. But the fact that there are all kinds of people disrupting things in the UK, that there is even a lord called Lord Ahmed or somebody who regularly incites people to violence and demonstrations and stuff, that's okay. That's okay. But an elected member of parliament in Holland, you don't have to agree with what he says. But surely if we have lost the ability to discuss things openly and to challenge things, then freedom of speech is out the window. Now we have in Canada, again, the Human Rights Tribunal, this lady who has earns several $100,000 a year of the taxpayers' money, flies everywhere business class, stays in expensive hotels, and who is of no benefit to society whatsoever. She's now decided to make herself more important, that everything that's published in the press in Canada should come under review by her committee or some such similar committee. I like arguing. I have no trouble with people who disagree with me. I try my best to persuade them of my point of view. I'm quite realistic. I'm not going to persuade many people of my point of view. And when I listen to them, I'm not usually persuaded, but it stimulates me. It stimulates me to think. It stimulates me to challenge some of my views. If they are adept in presenting their perspective, it definitely influences my view on things. And I think it's healthy to have people saying exactly what they think. I should point out that at this meeting that I attended, where we were lectured by this student on how to dialogue and how not to be sort of forceful in presenting our own views and to be respectful of others' views and all this kind of stuff that he gets from his so-called course at university, that when I had a chance to discuss with him, and I told him that I do not believe in multiculturalism for a country like Canada, that I believe that people of whatever race and origin and culture should be welcomed into a common sense of belonging to Canada, and that countries in the New World, whether they be Canada, the United States, Brazil, wherever, that people of many different origins have come together, and the more successful those societies are, the less we make a distinction based on where people come from. People are quite welcome to be interested in their ancestral culture or any other culture, but I don't think it's something that we should celebrate as a sort of defining quality of our society. I mean, those are the kinds of things that I said. Well, he immediately attacked me as being a bigot, a racist. I mean, he was so aggressive. Here's this guy who was lecturing people on how to dialogue. And when I presented my views, the way I often do here, I present them the way I think them, but I don't jump at people, I don't call them bigots or racists or anything else. And he was the exact opposite. So that all these people who are preaching dialoguing and the sort of guardians of political correctness, they are the most intolerant of other people's views. And I see this in particular in the academic field here, where people are afraid to speak up. People are afraid to speak up because they will be ostracized, because a certain group of people have decided, much like under the Catholic Church in the Middle Ages in Europe, who decided that the sun revolved around the earth, and that you are not allowed to say that that's not true. And much like in communist societies and in other societies where a certain orthodoxy is established as the only correct way to think, well, the political correct group are exactly the same way, and they're totally intolerant of other people's points of view. I have this on this English language ESL teachers listserv that I belong to, where they are quite intolerant of different perspectives. And yet they somehow feel they can dialogue their way into persuading me, or they can defang me, or whatever. Forget it. Language is great. People should think. People should form their own views. People should be allowed to challenge whatever they choose to challenge. And even if it offends some people, so what? I'm in favor of speaking up and challenge yourself. If you don't agree with what they're saying, think about it and come up with a better argument. Anyway, that's my little rant today, and I hope to hear back from you. Thank you.